Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Entitled Family Who Abandoned Me Demand I Give Them $6,000 Wedding Dress to Entitled Sister. I am the executive assistant to the CEO of a pretty big fashion brand, which basically means I'm my boss's idiot, and I do whatever she asks. My job has many aspects and is always open to more. It gets tiring sometimes, but there are perks to my job. I get free clothes a lot, mainly for when I go to big events with my boss. It wouldn't look very good if I was wearing another designer, but my boss also gives me any defects. Clothing that came out wrong or is imperfect or not up to my boss's standards. Now this for some reason makes people think I'm stuck up. I swear I'm not. I really appreciate that my boss does this, as there was a time when I had very little and couldn't afford to buy food no matter whether my clothing was cheap or expensive. Anyways, one day my boss mentioned that one of the wedding dresses she had was a defect. The train was shorter than it was supposed to be. She asked if I knew anyone who could use one, which I didn't. My best friend of 5 years had gotten engaged a few months before. My boss gave it to me, and I gave it to my friend. This friend has been there for me since I was 20. She took me in and helped me find my path out of a very dark situation. I love her more than anything in the world. Here's where things get messy. My friend made a post thanking me and my boss, and my family saw it, and it started a stream of calls and messages from my family. I do not have a good relationship with my family. My parents kicked me out when I was 16 after I came out to them. My sister wasn't much better than my parents. We actually never got along even before I was kicked out. She's a very entitled person who was very selfish. I struggled for a long time after that. I lived with my aunt until I was 18, which wasn't easy as we had little money. I ended up going to design school, getting an internship, and then a job at my current company. It wasn't until my family found out that I was making good money and working for a multi-million-dollar company did they suddenly want to be back in my life, which I allowed to avoid drama. Basically, my mom and sister called demanding to know why I gave the dress to my friend and not my sister. Apparently she was getting married, I didn't even know she was engaged. They berated me, yelling how family should come first. These are the same people who kicked me out at 16. They even suggested I try to take it back from my friend as family should come first. When I told them point blank that was never going to happen, they started bashing me to extended family, who also started messaging me, insulting me. My sister even tried to call my boss to complain, which is just nuts, right? Update 1. Well, last night my entitled family struck again. Last night I got a call from my mother. At this point, I haven't spoken to my family since the previous incident. This is the conversation we had. Me. Hello. Mom. Hello, Dax. Me. Mom, what is it now? A little rude, I know, but it's gotten to the point I can't even pretend to be nice with them. Mom. Your sister is still upset about the dress. Me. Well, she needs to get over it. I gave the dress to Megan. It belongs to Megan, plain and simple. Mom. I know. Me. Really? Mom. She accepted she's not getting the dress. Me. Okay, good. Mom. Me and your sister came up with a way to make it up to her. Me. What? Mom. Since you didn't give her the other dress, we thought you could get her another one. Me. I can't do that. Mom. Why not? You got one for that friend of yours. Me. I didn't get one for her. My boss gave me a defect dress and told me I could give it to someone I know who needed it. Mom. Your sister doesn't want a defect, she needs a perfect dress. Me. Are you kidding me? Mom. No, she says she wants the one from your post on your Instagram the other day. Me. That dress cost $12,000. Mom. That's perfect. Me. Seriously? You expect me to give you guys a $12,000 dress? Are you high? Mom. You do not speak to your mother that way. Me. You're ridiculous. Mom. She is your sister. Do you have no respect for family? Me. Respect? Seriously? You kicked me out when I was 16. Mom. Dax, that was a long time ago, and we're talking about your sister, not me. Me. Yeah, my sister. The one who calls me her faggot brother when I'm not around. I am not getting her a dress from work, and that's final. Mom. Fine, but the least you can do is help buy her one. Me. Are you kidding me? At this point, I hang up. She calls back a few times, but I just ignore them. I really consider cutting them off again. This is getting ridiculous. Final update. I posted a few more stories as well, but had to delete them to protect myself because things got serious fast, and I had to take minor legal action against my parents and major legal action against my sister. The legal action took a lot out of me, so I'm gonna stop posting about it, even though I said I would. Even when it was over, I wasn't really in the mood to write about it. I deleted my original account. I tried to come back before, but still wasn't ready. But I was recently scrolling through Facebook and I saw my story in a popular TikToker's video, and it made me want to share an update. So here it is. So, 2 months after getting a no contact order on my sister, the pandemic broke out. Me and my husband, then boyfriend, lived in a very small 1-bedroom apartment. So, before it got bad, we moved out to his parents' farm as they had a huge farmhouse with plenty of room. I cannot tell you how happy I was we did this, as a few weeks after we had moved out. My sister shows up at my apartment. Again, we were not home. But our doorbell cam caught everything. Due to it being legal evidence, I'm not allowed to share the video. She showed up and started banging on the door. At first, she was just screaming my name and yelling for us to open. But then she started yelling insults, her favorite being the word faggot. It was pretty much faggot this, faggot that. And then she started threatening us, threatening our lives. And at first, we figured she was just saying stuff to scare us, but the threatening got disturbing and detailed. We took the video to the police. But there wasn't much they could do as they had no idea who she was. My sister does not live in America. We were both born in another country. I moved here on a student visa when I was 18, I got a work visa after that, and became an American citizen legally a year ago when I married my husband. My sister still lives in our home country. So me and my fiancé pretty much had to sit in fear. A few days later, our apartment was broken into and trashed. Again, the doorbell cam showed it was my sister. Good news is, she was caught this time, fleeing the scene. Now, my sister got in a lot of trouble, not just for what she did to us, but because she's traveling to another country during a pandemic. Both the US and our home country had travel bans on at the time. How my sister found a way around it, I have no idea. My sister spent a month here in the state as they decided what to do with her. But they ultimately decided to send her home to be dealt with there. Which sadly means I have no clue what her charges are. I haven't gotten any messages from my parents or my sister. Likely because they don't want to personally mix the pot. My sister is facing some serious charges back home, but I've gotten a lot of hate from other family members, telling me it's my fault for what happened to my sister. So yeah, there you go. Not really too exciting, but I felt the need to update. Reminder, I am not OP. The next story is titled, Our New Neighbor Thinks She Owns the Building. Anyway, I, 31F, live in a block of 6 units, apartments for non-Australians. A month ago, the unit above mine went up for sale and sold fairly quickly, and the new owner moved in less than a week ago. This morning, I got up and went to take the rubbish out and found a note stuck to my door. I honestly thought it was a I'm new to the building kind of note, you know? Oh, I could not have been more wrong. Dear tenant, I recently bought your building and wish to introduce myself. My name's blah blah, not going to put her actual name, and I think you will find me a fair landlord. However, I do have rules. Everyone is to be in their units by 9 p.m. If you're going to be out past this, I suggest you find accommodation elsewhere. No pets allowed. If you have any, they must be relocated before I do an inspection or I will call the ranger to remove them. This is the only warning. I will conduct an inspection once a month and you will be present to answer any questions or face eviction. Failure to pay rent on time will result in your eviction. If we all follow these rules, I'm sure we'll get along. Sincerely, blah blah. What the duck did I just read? Fun fact about my building, we all own our own units. Nobody actually owns the whole building. I won't lie, I got to the number 2 and had a slight panic attack because I have cats and there's no way I was giving them away before I remembered we bought our unit just before Christmas. We rented it from a friend prior and when she told me she was thinking about selling it, we bought it. Didn't even have to move. So in some ways it still feels like renting, but we actually own our unit. Now, I'm not great at confronting someone, I tend to shake a lot, but at that moment I was quite angry, so I went upstairs and knocked on her door. You know that gut feeling you have? It was spot on. That door opened, and there stood a Karen. Her hair blonder than my own, her nails long and bright colored. She didn't look happy to see me there. I introduced myself and explained that I lived downstairs and that I wanted to talk to her about her note. She started to talk over top of me, explaining that her letter was basic rules and even a child could understand it, and if I didn't like her rules, I could hand in a letter to vacate. Wow. I would ask if people are really this up themselves, but I work in retail and could answer my own question. I told her that I actually owned my unit, she hadn't bought it or the rest of the building, but only her own unit, and that she couldn't enforce anything in her note. She didn't like that at all. She started yelling at me, saying that yes, she had indeed bought the whole building, and that failure to comply with her rules would mean I would be evicted. I was just starting to think maybe I was wrong when another neighbor opened his door. He came out and asked what the issues were about, and could she stop screaming as he worked nights and was trying to sleep. I told him I was trying to explain that she hadn't bought the building, and she started yelling again. My neighbor told her to stop and then said the best thing I had heard that day. "Are you stupid?" Her jaw dropped as he explained to her how wrong she was and that he was in fact part of the Strata Committee, kind of like an HOA that oversees the building, and that she had no right to make rules for everyone. She gave us dirty looks before slamming the door. I thanked him, and he said in the entire time he lived there he hadn't seen someone so entitled. The next story is titled, "Call My Place of Employment for a Google Review? Enjoy an even more scathing one revealing your harassment." Today, I was going about my shift at the general store I work at, and at about noon or so, shortly after I had finished cleaning the windows, a couple of guys for a local window cleaning place came and started streaking the windows before they had even dried, and then not even 5 minutes later they came in and asked me to get a manager to try and quote us for window cleaning. Understandably frustrated, I told them that we do our own cleaning and that it would not be necessary and sent them on their way. After hanging around outside for another 10 or so minutes, they finally left after being shooed off. I saw the name of the company they work for on their shirt, so I decided to leave a Google review explaining what had happened. Not even 20 minutes later, the owner of the company called my place of employment asking for me. My coworker brought me the phone, and immediately he began yelling at me and threatening to send the police down to force me to remove my review. Cue my even more petty revenge. I promptly updated my review, explaining everything that happened. The next story is titled, "Cut in Front of Me in the Dinner Queue." I hope you like ants. A few years ago, while traveling in India, I decided to try a 10-day silent meditation retreat. The retreat was out in the middle of nowhere and home to a large colony of the biggest and fiercest ants I have ever seen. As this was a Buddhist retreat, no measures were taken to get rid of them, and they were everywhere. When you turned on a tap, ants came first, then the water. That's not hyperbole. A couple of days in, my hard-earned tranquility was shattered by another meditator who felt it his right to cut in front of me while waiting for our evening meal. The bastard even had the audacity to give me a little smirk as he did it, knowing I couldn't call him out on it. I could only glare impotently at the back of his queue-jumping head. I was livid, to say the least. In the following meditation sessions, I couldn't concentrate on the practice. I could think of nothing but revenge. Luckily, I had a lot of time to think, and slowly a plan emerged. The following day, whilst making myself a cup of chai, I surreptitiously pocketed a large handful of sugar, which I later dispensed into a half-full water bottle, creating a lovely syrup. At the next meditation session, I made sure I was last in line to enter the building. Before you enter the building, you remove your flip-flops and leave them outside. I made sure to mark my enemy's footwear as he removed them, and when I was alone outside, I joyfully doused them in syrup, being careful to avoid any innocent victim's shoes. After a few hours of peaceful meditation, we all began leaving the building. Doubts had started entering my mind. What if it didn't work? What if he only has sticky flip-flops? Not the worst outcome, but still. However, I was in luck. My plan had worked. His flip-flops were now a writhing mass of angry, sugar-fueled ants. His face was priceless. Shock, horror, complete confusion. He broke his vow of silence instantly, but it was in Hindi, so I'll never know what he said. The tone was disbelief, though. He tried, vainly, to gingerly pick one up, but was fended off by the gallant soldier ants with their massive jaws. He eventually found a stick with which to hook them, but that failed as well as the ants started to climb down the stick, frightening him into dropping it. He left barefoot and perplexed. Victory was mine, and I could return to my meditation satiated. The last story is titled, "Anytime I Think About It, I Can't Help But Giggle." I used to work for a guy that was a massive asshole. He purchased the business on a whim and swiftly ran it into the ground. I left the place, but he did his best to drag my name through the mud well after I was gone. In response, I had business cards printed that say, "You park like a jackass. Give me a call for a free parking lesson," with his phone number listed underneath. Anytime I see someone parked terribly, I will pop a business card under the wiper. It brings me such joy to know that on any day of the week, this guy is going to be ultra confused by some random person calling him and telling him to go and fuck himself for commenting on their parking. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.